From the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video blog on the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may or may not reflect the thoughts of the EPAWA staff as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Martrich, and this is another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, November 26th. And what we do in this video, for those of you not familiar, we do take a look at the long range and kind of recap what we did on Friday with the public long range, but then expand upon it a little bit and go into a little bit more detail on the technical side so you can understand where we're coming from. Big headline yesterday. Big headline yesterday was the model starting to catch on to our ideas from way back, only about a month now, on our long-range table here of this period right in here of a transition, right in here. So above this line, of course, up till about the 10th or so, we are near to maybe slightly above average as a whole. Okay, a couple periods in there that are going to be warmer than average, and then of course cooler than average at times also, but very up and down and transient, very fast-moving zonal pattern. And very weak systems moving in and out of the area, so not a lot of precipitation either. But once we got to this point right here, we had outlined, there's going to be a change to winter, and that's going right into Christmas. So this has been up here now for a month, and we have not wavered from that idea because we were able to look at observations, which is what I really need to see if you're really into long range and you really want to get into forecasting long range. And this is something you need to do. Forget the models. The models are just there to collaborate with your ideas once they come into range. They're not to be used as we need to forecast off of this. What we're forecasting off of, I'll show you in this video. All right, so we're sticking with this idea that we're going to transition to winter, and not just cold, but cold and moisture involved this time instead of just what we've had. We had cold already, within the past week or 10 days. And that was in large part due to a blocking over Greenland. But we didn't have the moisture. It was just cold and dry. We do think that's going to change. December as a whole, we still have above average snowfall, especially areas northwest of 995. So last couple of years have been terrible. Terrible for December. Very warm. I think we were wearing shorts one of those winters. So maybe it was just last year. Was that last year? I'm not sure. It was very warm. It doesn't matter. We haven't seen any snow of significance for several years, so we're at least in the month of December. So this is definitely going to be different this year, we think. La Nina, we check out this each week just to see where we change from where we were previously in the different basins of the eastern equatorial eastern Pacific. So we are still in a La Nina, and we're starting to see more of a transition from an east-based Nina to more basin-wide. We're not quite there yet, but every year that we used in our analogs, this is what happened. I mean, we started off east-based here, and then where it goes from there determines how the winter goes. I don't think we're going to become west-based. So these, even though it's our top analog, and there's no sign of that right now. So these two right here that say west-based, we're probably going to put those in the back burner for now. The ones that are more likely, maybe basin-wide, there's 83, 84 showing up, or centralized, same kind of concept. 96, 97, basin-wide became basin-wide December, January, February. So this is also 95, 96 is also on there, and another one is 67, 68. So these analogs here right now probably look like the best ones just because we're not really seeing any signs of anything west-based. All right, can that happen? Sure, of course. We'll see how that propagates in the next coming weeks, but I don't see that. At least right now, it doesn't look like we're really in a hurry to send these colder waters further westward. So maybe basin-wide or centralized will be a better idea, which has implications downstream on how our weather occurs during the winter. Now, we talked about that in the previous couple of videos. I don't want to get into that too much this video because I have other things to talk about. Here's our snow cover propagation. Hasn't really moved much. Just got richer. So you got real deep snow over parts of Canada, and it's stuck up here, and it's so close. I mean, here's New York State right here. Okay, so it's so close it's just not coming down into the continental United States. All right, so what can get that to come down here? What can get that to come down here? Well, we have to get rid of the zonal pattern, which we're in right now. And by zonal, this is what we're looking at, okay? Everything's kind of right, very zonal. There's no deep amplification like this. It's just, and that's it. All right? Now, occasionally, like this one, this is looking at Tuesday morning, projection for Tuesday morning. Occasionally, you get these little cold shots. This is the one that actually is affecting us today. A little cold shot that we have coming in today that's keeping us in the mid-40s. All right, so this quick in and out, and then a ridge is replacing with it in the middle. Occasionally you have a little trough that'll come in. You see these little wavelengths here. There's one here, there's one here, there's one here. So what do you have? Here's cool. In between it warms up, then it gets cool again, warms up. You see how this parade train goes here? This is a zonal pattern. This is a zonal flow, and this is the reason why everything's locked up to the north. Here's the jet stream. Where's all the snow? Up here. No surprise it's not getting down here because the jet's up here. And this is the upper air pattern looking up at 250 millibars. This is where the jet stream is. And if everything's driving, the upper air pattern is driving it up here and staying north of the Canada-U.S. border. That's where the snow's going to stay, too. That's where all the cold air is. So it's no surprise. This is no surprise at all. All right. And now, how can we get this to change so that we get into the snow events? Well, one of those things is the Southern Oscillation Index. We've been talking about this in the last couple videos, but see how right in here, see how we were just sitting here between plus 10, plus 15. See these values right here, 12, 11, 15, 12. These are all positive values, and we said we needed to start seeing a drop, and we knew what we were talking in the last video. The last video that we did only had data through right here, so we could not see any observation showing this drop. We knew it was going to drop eventually, and look what it's starting to do. It was still plus 10, plus 15 earlier this week, right through Thanksgiving, and then 9, 1, negative 0.7. See how it's dropping here? We need to see that drop continue. What the SOI does is it's a measure of the difference of pressure between Darwin, Australia, and Tahiti, and that would when this number starts turning negative like this, and you get these big drops negative, it leads to more amplification of the jet. So you get more of an amplified pattern. So instead of seeing this zonal stuff right here, seeing right here, well, now the jet starts coming in like this. It gets real big, big deep ridges and troughs. That's what it leads to. So that's what you need to see. You need to see that change. Now, the thing that can help that is the atmospheric angular momentum, or the AAM. Right now, it's in a low negative state, and it's projected to remain that way over the next 10 days or so. Oh, probably longer than that, though. This is just a measure of how fast the atmosphere is spinning relative to the Earth's rotation. So, basically, the lower the AAM state is, it just means that you have a slower pattern, more amplification. So these are some things that you're looking at when you're looking at the observational stuff. Forget the models. Forget it. Okay? Observational stuff is telling me that once we hit, this is a 10 to 14 day lag, once we hit the 10th or so of December, we start seeing these changes. It might be a couple days earlier than that, but it's going to be within, again, it's 10 to 14 days. That could be anywhere from the 6th or 7th all the way up to the 10th. All right? It might come in early, might not. Sometimes the models like to speed this up a little bit. But either way, here's the upper air pattern that we're looking at down the line. This is looking at the 10th of December, and this is on the European Ensemble. It's Euro EPS. The GFS is not too far off this, actually, but this is a dream winter pattern. And by that, and I don't necessarily mean big East Coast storm here yet. You still need to get the pattern in place first before you can get the storm threat, but the storm threat will be there the week after. So we have that storm threat outline is between the 11th and 18th as seeing the first significant measurable snowfall in our region. I do maintain that will happen during that time frame. It may be another one or two leading up to Christmas, but the first one occurs, the first measurable, at least north areas of northwest of 95. I do want to say that because the coastal coast is still, these warm, waters are very warm out here, so it's going to be tough to get something along the coastal plain yet until we get deeper into January, because it's so warm there. But northwest of 95, first significant measurable snowfall, we feel will be between the 11th and the 18th of December, and maybe more after that. Okay, so what we're looking at here, big ridge out west here, deep trough in the east. Okay, so you also have a negative NAO, that's up here. You also have a negative EPO, which is very important because you get the cross-polar flow coming right over from Siberia, right over the poles, and coming right down into the eastern United States. Okay, big ridge out west. All right, these are all big things, and obviously negative Arctic oscillation also. All right, so this is a good pattern if you want a winter pattern, cold and snow. Looking at the individual teleconnections, again, here's these are just the raw numbers here. All right, this is the Arctic Oscillation, and this is what I like to call the superfecta. You ever do horse racing and they have the trifectas or whatever, and superfecta is the 4. Well, these are the 4 things I think you need to have working in your favor in order to have a big East Coast storm threat and cold and snowy pattern. All right, here's the Arctic Oscillation. You need this to be negative. It is. The PNA, which is your Pacific North American forecast. This is your ridge out west. Obviously, you can see that is positive. Now, this stops here at the 5th of December, but if I extrapolated that based on that image I just showed you, the ridge keeps going up like this. You need this to be positive, and that's check. All right, so check here. Okay, check here. That's 2. The North Atlantic Oscillation, which is your NAO, that's your block, you're over Greenland. You need that to be negative, slowing down the pattern, getting up potential for bigger storms. That's good. Check. You also need I think this is the most important, East Pacific Oscillation, the EPO. Need this to be negative. All right. If you get a negative EPO, you get a cross-polar flow, and you get the cold locked in, and a storm track, an amplified storm track. So you see something like this. This is here is a negative EPO. All right. Looking at the EPO a little bit more deeper. This is what we're looking at right now. And this is a positive East Pacific Oscillation. This is not my graphic. Yeah, courtesy of the Weather Network. They put this together. But you have a low in the Bering Strait. I'm going to go right back to where we are right now. Okay. Look. Low out here in the Aleutians. Okay. Not very much amplification. This is all warm across the U.S. All right. So you see the same thing. Warm across the U.S. Here's that low out in the Aleutians, and here is the cold all bottled up in the north. That's what we're dealing with right now in a positive East Pacific Oscillation. You go to a negative oscillation, and it looks like this. All right. This is what a negative East Pacific Oscillation looks like. Deep cold in the eastern United States, big ridge out west, and you have up here in Alaska, or up near Alaska, you have that huge ridge and the negative EPO. You have a cross-polar flow coming right over the polar ranges deep into the central and eastern United States. This is all from a negative East Pacific Oscillation. And look at this. Doesn't it look familiar? Look at that. That's what it looks like. Looks almost identical. Okay? See that? So I think the real thing here is actually going to be the EPO going negative, and if that happens, of course, we're going to get into a colder, snower pattern as well, which we have projected again for a while. These are not things that are news to us. All right, we're seeing the Madden-Julian Oscillation come around here. This is the propagation on the Euro Weeklies, and looking to see everything's kind of going through these warm phases here over the next couple weeks. These are warm phases 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it goes into 7. Well, 3 is warm, 4 is warm, 5 is slightly warm, and then 6 is warm. So it's going to be milder than average, and we knew that going through about the 10th. And we get into past the 10th. Look what happens. Look what phase 7 does. Cold starts coming into the central United States, and then we get into the slightly below. And phase 8 will be below average, and that's going to be our week before Christmas. All right, so we're going to go into phases 7 and 8 eventually. Here, look at this. It goes all the way to the 25th, and it goes into these colder phases. So the Madden-Julian Oscillation will be favorable at that time for a more active pattern, cold and snow. So all these things are coming together. Everything's coming together. It's not like this is not like you have one thing that you're trying to cherry pick and say, oh, well, this looks good. Everything's coming together at the same time. Oh, now, and that's what you need. I mean, when you're trying to get a perfect setup for winter and transition into winter and say, hey, is this going to be a transient type thing, or is it going to be another 2 or 3 day cold shot and is it going to disappear? Or is this going to be a true step down into winter? Well, we think it is a true step down into winter. All right. And then we have that right around the 10th. It could be a couple days before that. But definitely during the second week of December is when we're looking at. The first week's going to be warm. And the last couple days here of November will be warm. So we do have that milder period. This is between the 5th and 9th. Look, we have these warmer temperatures, the colds out here. Look what happens once we get beyond that from the 10th to the 14th. Uh-oh. Here's all the cold coming into the north central U.S., okay, and then we get slightly below here in our region. And then if we wanted to extrapolate this another 5 days, or maybe week to, up to a week beyond that, all this here is going to shift into the northeast United States, and that's the week before Christmas. So we're going to be cold going into, I mean, when I say cold, I'm talking about cold relative to average. So this is not, no kidding, it's going to be cold. It's December. But complete opposite of what we've had the last couple of years where it's been so warm. And the difference between what the cold we just had in November, obviously that it's going to be colder than that because it's further along into the season, but the difference is we're going to have an amplified pattern now, we think. All right, so we don't have that flat zonal pattern that looks like this. None of this flat zonal stuff. It looks like this. We're talking about more amplified. More amplified means chances for storms to slow down, get better organized, have more moisture with them. And you combine that with moisture with the cold that's in place, that is projected to be in place, and then you have your first wintry scenario. And again, we think that's going to be between the 11th and 18th is when we're going to see our first one in this area. We do comprehensive model analysis ahead of all these storms, any storms throughout the entire winter. You can check that out in the premium form. We do not do that publicly. We do issue public maps. We will have public snow maps and things like that when something is imminent, but leading up to it. We do not have any discussions publicly about this other than our daily forecast videos that, hey, we're watching it, check it out, that kind of thing. All right. We might allude to it in the long range or in these videos like we just did. But that's the extent of what we're going to do. In the forum is where we go into the actual model analysis once these storms starts to become within 7 days. So the forum is where you want to check that out to become part of that. And if you have the if you want the winter alerts, which are the text or email, or it's not the email, I'm sorry, just the text alerts for the winter season, we have that available for you too as well. Just click on the image below this video and you'll see that the My Pocket Meteorologist video will take you right to the sign up page to order either 1 or 2 county weather alerts and or the forum. You can actually bundle it together for a discount as well. But again, this is where we're going to get going here very shortly. So now's the time to get signed up for it if you have not already. And we'll start discussing that once these storm threats start appearing, which we think will be very soon. I'm Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Marchers. That is this edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, November 26, 2017. Make sure you join us again next week. We'll have a better handle on maybe what's coming in the near future as far as snow and cold. Take care.